Welcome back to Inside Politics. We're talking about impeachment today. We're talking with Democrat Larry Woods and Republican Bill Phillips. Gentlemen, everybody thinks at this point that there's a pretty good chance the House will impeach the president, but it appears because the Senate controls the Republicans control the Senate, there's probably not much chance that it will be taken care of. He'll be removed from office. Bill, people early on thought that perhaps the senators might pretty quickly dismiss the whole thing. But now Speaker McConnell has backed off from that, and now John Cornyn, who's one of the other persons very close to leadership, says he's not sure they've got 51 votes to even dismiss the case, period.
Well, I think they're being very realistic because things are shifting on the Senate side as they learn more and they hear some things that maybe now are becoming more factual in their tone than they have been in the past, rather than a conspiracy or this hate relationship between the parties. They're looking at the facts, and I think they're holding back, as the Senate should. They should deliberate.
So, Larry, we may have a prolonged trial for this. Looks like that's going to take up pretty much the first month of January when the Senate comes back, if it does.
Yes, it does look that way. And you've got a lot of political issues, aside from the impeachment issue, going on in that. Number one, you've got right at half a dozen Republican senators up for re-election next year who are vulnerable. They may not lose, but there's a good chance that they may. If they wind up being champions for Trump, they're going to energize a lot of anti-Trump voters in their Senate election. I'd say a long hearing in the Senate is going to guarantee the Democrats take control of the Senate in the election. Plus, Elizabeth Warren and the Amy Klobuchar and Cory Booker, the Democratic senators who are running for president, they want to be in Iowa in January. They don't want to be in Washington.
Yeah, that was brought up, and the Washington Post had an article that basically said there's some in the Senate who want a nice long trial because it will keep all those senators who are running for president from being able to go to New Hampshire, from able to go to Iowa. But, Bill, how is it good for the Republicans or the president to have a prolonged day after day after day trial with the presidency at stake, and as Larry talks about, control of the Senate perhaps at stake?
Well, then I think Larry is onto something in that they need to get these behind them quickly, or they need to find a reason to delay until after the election, because the Republicans are vulnerable with or without the impeachment. Every day it goes on, that just spotlights gridlock.
Larry, let's go to Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn's pretty solidly in support with the president. He helped her get elected last year. She's not up for election next year. Lamar Alexander, though, has been one of those people who already said, well, let's wait and do this and let the election decide what happens. Does that mean that he'd like to see this get over with quickly so he doesn't have to worry about it? He's not running for re-election, but is he also potentially one of those that might flip if the right things happen for the Democrats and they suddenly start seeing an erosion of the president's support?
I think if the facts are there when it comes to the Senate trial, Senator Lamar Alexander is one of the senators of great character, absolutely good quality, who will vote based on what his honor and integrity and his fair-mindedness tells him to do. Would that be easy for him to vote to impeach a Republican president? No, not at all. But Lamar, especially in his early days, did a lot of things that weren't easy, that weren't politically favorable. So yes, I think that possibility is out there.
Bill, as we get into the election year of 2020, the race for Senator Alexander's seat will heat up. There are two Republicans that are leading candidates for that, and the Republican will be favored probably in the general election too next November. You've got Bill Hagerty and Manny Sethi. Both of them seem to be almost outdoing themselves about how much they can support President Trump and support his issues. So in Tennessee, this impeachment is not a winning issue. Anti-impeachment is a winning issue in this state, right?
Well, I think that they're going to go along with the Trump White House, no matter what's going on up on Capitol Hill, because they see that as a winning strategy in Tennessee for the U.S. Senate.
I think that's absolutely right, and they see that Marsha Blackburn won because of the Trump support. So that tells me the second guy in the Republican primary, Bill Hagerty, is clearly going to get Trump's endorsement before it's over. Therefore, if I'm the Vanderbilt surgeon who's running on the Republican ticket against Hagerty in the primary, I've got to have a different strategy. I can't count on Trump.
Larry, on the Democratic side, Congressman Jim Cooper this week got some progressive potential opposition next year in Justin Jones, a local activist. They progressives have not been happy with the congressman for some time over the Green New Deal, over his lack of support for Medicare for all. He was also a little late coming in to support impeachment. Is he got some potential problems in a primary with this?
Yes, no question. In a general election, Jim Cooper is going to win re-election pretty easily. But in a Democratic primary running against somebody that the African American community is going to vote for 99%, that's 30% of the Democratic primary vote right there.
Can Justin Jones get that kind of African American support?
He has been a neighborhood community activist here for, 2 years now, has been very high profile in the community. I'll be stunned if he can't get 99% of the minority vote, plus some of the progressive liberal vote.
Bill, you're on the outside looking in on that, but while they don't necessarily like Jim Cooper, he's a little closer to some Republican positions than they might likely get, say, if a more progressive person got in. Is that of a concern? Because a lot of your people may stay home to vote in that Senate primary.
Well, every 2 years we go through, is this the time that Cooper is going to be beat? But I wouldn't discount the Cooper tie to the black community, and we saw that in the mayor's race.
True.
And so, yes, the likely opponent to Jim Cooper is a neighborhood activist type of progressive, but you can't just say, okay, all that group is going to vote this way because of that. There's these long ties that the Cooper family
Larry Woods
pulled
and
out.
Bill Phillips are our guests on Inside Politics. We're talking impeachment politics, but we've been talking 2020, and now we'll talk more on the presidential race after this break.